Well, hello fellow crafters and fellow artists. Today's video is another hashtag event with the Creative Arts Collaboration, and this month's hashtag event was Love Flower Art, I believe is the name of it, or Flower Art. Anyway, I had a completely different project planned for this event, a different painting project that I was going to do. And then this horrible tragedy struck in Orlando, and it has touched my heart in profound ways that I just can't even explain. To know that 50 parents, 50 sets of parents, got that phone call that no parent should have to get, that me and my husband got 16 years ago when our son died suddenly and tragically. And so this has had a very, very large impact on me and my emotions, and so I just wanted to pay honor and tribute to those families who are having to deal with the mourning and the loss and the grief of what they've suffered, to know that there is hope out there, that you can and will survive. And you will come through the other side stronger. And you will be an advocate for the next parent. You will have a heart of compassion, love, and understanding for the next person who walks your shoes. So this is my peace flower. It is not a flower you're going to find in nature. I didn't intend it to be. It is intended to be a flower of peace, love, and unity, dedicated to the families in Orlando who are so grief-stricken right now, for them to know that they're not alone, that there are those parents of us out there that are here to love you and support you and be there for you through this process. So please forgive me. I do get a little emotional through this process, so I did my best to edit out some of that and keep the video focused on the doing of the project. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy this video, and please don't forget to check out the other artists who are contributing to this Love Flower Art collaboration. I'm going to put an iCard right here that's going to link to that playlist, but there's also going to be a link to the playlist in the description below for you to be able to go, and please give love and support to the other artists who contributed to this collaboration, and thank you so much for watching. Okay, I'm going to show you what I've got drawn out so far. I know you probably can't see it well, and I know it's a little bit dark right now because I have my light pointed away from it, because with the light on it you really can't see, but hopefully you'll be able to see enough of it there. I have a circle drawn out, and all I did was use a roll of masking tape as my guide to draw my circle out, and then I used just a little cap from something, I don't even remember from what, honestly, to mark the center point that all the petals are going to come from. So easy enough, no real drawing skills involved here. And then you can see I wrote the words out, never forget, and kind of block lettering, and then Orlando in cursive. So that kind of marks out my placement for everything, which is going to make it easier, you know, putting the flower in and background colors and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and shine my light back on it as I continue to draw. And so what I'm doing is these two circles help, of course, to mark the center and the outer edge, so that I keep, not exactly, but for the most part within that area, which will keep, you know, the flower looking properly proportioned. And then as I'm drawing each petal, I'm turning my paper, so that the petal is going, you know, out from the center in the proper direction. And I am kind of ruffling the edges on some of them, making them not perfectly or exactly shaped, one, you know, exactly like the next, and so forth. No twin petals here. Sort of a daisy. This is of course going to be a fanciful flower. And you see I'm even going off on the tape with my pencil, because I just want to make sure that the overall shape of the petal is correct, even though it goes off the page a little bit. But you know, the peace sign and daisy are just really, you know, iconic symbols of peace, and that's what we're praying for the world right now, because we do live in perilous times where so much violence is happening, so much hate and human being on human being crime. It's just disheartening. I'm trying to decide right now if I want to go with a second layer of petals. Just trying to represent a little peace in the world through art, you know. It's really and truly, at the end of the day, all we can do is try and make our corner of the world a little bit brighter. I'm thinking it's too much. I think I'm going to just stick with the one layer of petals, and it's going to make it easier to put a background into. Okay, so you can see that I did a test run on one petal just to kind of see how things went. Not as tight and neat as I'd like it to be, but that is okay. I'm going to keep going with it. And what I'm going to do, I think, is wet 2 or 3 petals at a time. And remember, this is a fantasy flower. This is not something I'm trying to replicate in nature. This is something to pay tribute and honor to the young people, to all the people who lost their lives in Orlando. This is to represent them, to say that their lives matter to me, and to say we will not forget. So I'm going to wet, like I said, 2 or 3 petals at a time. And since the paint's going to follow the path of water, I'm trying to make sure I stay in the area that I want the color flow. And I'm using a Creative Mark Rhapsody number 4 Kolinsky brush. This was a free gift with purchase from Jerry's Artorama. I'll link that haul here in an iCard so you can see that haul, but this was a free gift with purchase when I bought my Turner paints, and it's a really nice brush, very expensive brush for a free gift with purchase. Now, one thing I tell you about this Fabriano paper, it sucks water up, so I end up finding that I have to go over the same area a couple of times to get it wet in a way that it stays wet and doesn't dry up very quickly. So I'm going to have to go over those same couple of 3 petals again to get a nice pretty sheen of wet water sitting on top without puddling. And that's a hard thing with this paper too. It does puddle quite badly once it does get saturated with water. So I have a hard time with fluid control on this paper. So I think I'm about to go ahead and splurge on some arches, probably about this size, probably about a 5.5 by 7.5 size block for me to practice on, because I don't want to spend a fortune of money for practice, you know, but I think it'll be better practice if it's on better paper, if that makes any sense to you. So the 3 colors that I'm using on these petals is Permanent Lemon, Alizarin Crimson, and Phthalo Blue Green shade, and they're all Turner Artist Watercolor paints that I got from Jerry's Artorama. And this is another reason that working on more than one petal at a time will be useful, because once I get my brush loaded with paint, it's got quite a bit of paint on it, so it would be a shame to just color in one little tiny dot with it and then rinse it all out and move on. So I'm going to tilt the paper so that the color will run from the middle of the petal towards the outside edge of the petal. I want it to flow and blend. So that was the permanent lemon, and now I'm going to pick up some alizarin crimson. And you can tell I'm working in the cool tone colors so that they will blend in a pretty way. If I was to mix warm and cools in here, it wouldn't have as nice of an effect. Okay, and to get the blending that you see in this flower, I did have to go over it a second time with those colors and kind of mix them in between. I'm trying to do that neatly and not go outside the lines. Is pretty hard, at least for me, because I'm still a novice. But that's how I was able to achieve that blending in between. So I'm going to pick up the alizarin crimson again. Or at least for the first two colors, I had to go back in and do that. With the lemon and the alizarin crimson. But you see how all of a sudden that just blended and came to life right there? It did make a difference. And remember, this is fantasy and beauty, not naturally accurate per se. Alright, so I'm just going to continue doing that all the way around this flower. I'm going to wet each petal, or I'm going to wet about 3 petals at a time. That seems to be a good number. It's easy to control the fluidity in that small of a number. So I'm going to continue with that and come back once I've got the outside petals filled in. Okay, so I just did the last couple of petals on my Peace Daisy, and now I'm going to go ahead and do the lettering on the Never Forget. What I've got here, because this is just, for me, what I'm very comfortable with working in these tiny little letters. Somebody else might be more comfortable with a different size brush, but I'm using a number 2 round Mimic from Mimic Squirrel from Creative Mark. I'm not that steady and precise with a brush yet, so I'm going to go with what gives me the greatest amount of precision in this area. Again, you work with whatever is comfortable for you. And because I want these to be a little bit darker and have a little bit more somber feel, I'm doing them in Payne's, just straight Payne's gray. I just activated a little bit and got it really, really heavy on the pigment load. And I guess you could say dry brushing it. I mean, my brush is fairly wet with pigment, but I'm doing this on dry paper. You could get a very similar color by using ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. That would give you a little bit more of a natural Payne's gray mix. But let me tell you what, this Payne's gray by Turner is beautiful. It is an absolutely stunning gray. It's very blue. It's a very heavy blue gray. But you can get it, like you can see here, you can get it very, very dark, very inky. And that's what I'm going to be doing for the lettering here. I'm not sure about the Orlando yet. That's going to be probably the last piece of the puzzle here. That's going to be the last thing I add color to. I may do it in the Payne's Gray, but I'm leaning towards doing it in a color. But it's going to have to be a color that stands out against the background, so I'm just not sure what that is yet. Because quite honestly, I haven't decided on my background yet. If you knew somebody in Orlando or had a friend or relative involved in that shooting, I just want you to know that my husband and I, our hearts go out to you. We suffered a loss 16 years ago. We got that phone call, that horrible, horrible phone call that says your child's not coming home again. And there are no words to describe that feeling. How long it stays with you. That moment when your life changes and is never the same again. So unfortunately, we have a very, very real idea of what those poor people are going through right now. And we have been praying so hard for those families because we do know their pain. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to pay tribute, to let them know that there are people who don't even know you who are sending you love and prayers this very minute. Okay, finished that lettering, and now what I'm doing is taking some permanent lemon and a little bit of that phthalo blue and mixing it to make a green, because I feel like that's part of what's missing from here. I didn't get a mix of green in the way I laid these colors out. So I feel like that it needs green. So I know green is not necessarily the most common color to find in the middle of a flower, but again, this is our own peace flower, our own tribute. So we can do it however we want to. So I think bringing some green in this is really going to help get that full rainbow effect that I was going for. And while that is still wet, I'm going to get a little bit of yellow ochre on my brush. And just kind of dot that in there. That was actually a much bigger dot than I intended, but that's okay. I just don't want it to be like just a solid green. I want to bring a little bit more earthiness into it. I'm not 100% satisfied with the flower, but I think it is pretty. I think it is conveying the feeling and the thought that I wanted it to. Still trying to figure out what I want to do in the background. I'm still thinking on that. So while this flower center dries, I'm going to go ahead and pause again, and when we come back I'll be ready to drop the background in. Okay, I'm ready to tackle my background, but I can't lie, I'm a little nervous because of all the tight little spaces in between these flower petals and around the center of the flower, around these letters. I'm just nervous, so I think what I'm going to do, rather than try and fight the situation, is just not go for like a really solid background. I'm just going to dot in water wherever I can, you know, just get everything wet around everything as well as I can, and then just drop in color, and so just get more of a marbled, kind of mottled background. And the color I decided to go with is Dioxazine Violet, because I really didn't get as much of a purpley mix between the blue and the red as I had hoped for with these flower petals. I really hoped that each petal would really just kind of look like a rainbow on its own. And they're pretty, they came out good. I'm not really complaining. But again, it's like with the green, I didn't really get a green represented in the petals, so I found a place to put the green to have that part of the rainbow. And so now to get more of that purpley color in here, I'm going to do I'm going to drop some purple in the background. So we're going to really round out that rainbow in this painting. So let me grab some paper towel in case things go a little wacko on me. I can blot up moisture or color very quickly. I'm using a number 12 Mimic Squirrel brush by Creative Mark, and again, this paper can be a little bit difficult to work with because it's hard to control the fluid on it. So I'm just gonna probably go over the whole thing once and then do it again. And see, I've already drug my brush through some pigment. That's okay, it was blue, not a biggie. Background in. It's not exactly what I wanted, but it's okay. I'm getting some harder edges than I wanted, and that's because of where the paper was drying while I was trying to get the pigment in. So I'm just trying to go in with just a wet brush, no pigment, just moisture, just to try and soften out some of those edges. Anyway, but for the most part, I like it. I think it looks good. It's got the representation that I wanted it to have. I think it's got the thoughtfulness that I wanted it to have, but we're not quite done because I still have to do the peace sign in the center of the flower, and I still have the Orlando 2 letter down here. So I'm going to let this dry, and then we'll come back and finish it up. Okay, the piece is dry now, and I think I'm going to go back into that Payne's Gray to do the peace sign in the center of the flower. And I've lost my pencil marking, so I'm going to try and freehand this. So hold your breath with me and cross your fingers. Here we go. And this again is that same number 2 round Mimic Squirrel. Our peace sign, and I think I'm just going to stick with this Payne's Gray to do the Orlando. I was wanting to do it in a brighter color, but I just can't make up my mind. Yeah, let me try it in the alizarin crimson first, and if I don't like it, then I can always go over it with the Payne's Gray. But I'm not going to dilute my paint that much. I'm going to get a pretty thick mixture of paint. Let me show you what I'm doing right here. See, it's not real juicy. And just a touch more water to it. we go. Here's my peace flower for Orlando. I just pray for healing grace upon the families who have just gotten terrible news. I pray for peace around the world. I pray that we never have to deal with this again in another city. And I'm sorry, my emotions keep getting the best of me in this video. So please do keep these people in your prayers as they deal with this tragedy in their city. And also, please remember to support the hashtag event for the Creative Arts Collaboration, which is Love Flower Art. I know this is probably a little bit somber, a little bit different video. I did mean for it to be a beautiful symbol of peace and remembrance, but I guess it did get a little heavy, and I apologize for that. But do give the other creators in this collaboration some support. Of course, there's going to be a link in the description below to the playlist that has all the other videos in this event. And I'm also going to have an iCard, or there was an iCard rather, at the beginning of the video with that link in it also. So anyway, thank you so much for being here today, for staying with me while I created this flower of peace for the city of Orlando. Thank you so much for sticking with me through the process to this point of the video. But anyway, you guys stay safe out there. Keep your eyes open, and as always, be blessed. Bye now.